here you see some dead wrecks of Decepticons, I assume. I don't know who's who. Don't ask me. So they're holding this trial for Rumble, and he's about to get executed, and Optimus Prime decides that it'd be a good idea to have Cliffjumper kind of pull the lever, and send Rumble plummeting to his doom. Now Cliffjumper, he goes on this long speech about how this is against Autobot law. Yes, he has rights under Autobot law. And he'd say, "Oh, I can't believe I'm telling Optimus Prime to not murder somebody." Optimus Prime says, "Oh, so unwise," and shoots the living crap out of Cliffjumper. And everybody just laughs. And Grimlock gurs. So now what they do is they talk about Optimus Prime makes this big speech. I only let you live because you were once one of my closest aides, but what to do with you now, I wonder. You seem to have forgotten what being an Autobot means. And he asks the Optimus Prime, because he's a little bit insane, asks all the dead carcasses of Autobots that are hanging from the roof of the smelting pool. So the dead bodies are telling him to dispose of him, and hopefully he'll get his they're putting him in the rad zone, and hopefully he'll kind of come to his senses. So then the Constructicons find him and rebuild him, or repair him, and bring him to Decepticon HQ. And I like how the Constructicons are painted, or are repainted to look like they're either supposed to look like Ratchet or the Protectobots. I think they're supposed to look like Ratchet. Although my initial thought was the Protectobots, because it just makes sense, sort of, in my own special way. So here he meets Sideswipe and Megatron. Megatron, as you can see, is a repaint and retooling of Energon Megatron. And Sideswipe is a repaint, redeco of Armada Sideswipe. So, and then we get to we're just getting into some they're getting into just confusing, unintentionally confusing Cliffjumper more, and then we get to the history, which I already discussed. And here we have Cliffjumper just figuring stuff out. And one funny thing he says is, so you're telling me that Megatron's a good guy, and Optimus Prime is loonier than Straxus. Last week I'd have told you you had a cracked cylinder, but I've seen some crazy things lately. Dimension hopping, time travel, alternate realities. What I wouldn't give for a simple war with good guys and bad guys. And Sideswipe, because he's from an alternate universe, he says, Straxus is insane. Straxus is insane where you come from? I always liked his poetry. So, I don't really know much about Straxus. He's apparently the guy who created this version of Nemesis Prime. The universe version. And yeah, so apparently he's apparently insane in the G1 universe. So in this, since it's a polar opposite, he's not only sane, but he's a great poet. So now we have Sideswipe has convinced Cliffjumper to to join them a little bit and help them with their plan to stop evil Optimus. And he says, okay, fine, whatever. And now you see Optimus training a little bit and getting some reports from his seekers, Goldbug and Blur. Now we have the War Room in Polyhex, which is the Decepticon HQ. And they're thinking up their plan. Now they want the main plan of Optimus Prime's is to use the Ark to and launch that into space and conquer other worlds. So Megatron is explaining what Optimus Prime's plan is, and here's that whole Primus thing. Cliffjumper says, by Primus, he can't be allowed to do that. And Megatron says, who is this Primus you speak of? And then, you don't know? Oh, what? How? He's the creator of all Transformers. We were created to stop Unicron, but we got too busy blowing each other up. And then Megatron says, it's quite funny. It's quite an interesting story. I'd like to think, it's comforting to think that there's some sort of benevolent origin to our history. We should discuss it later. But we got to destroy the Ark. But we also got to get past the launch platform. Another funny thing about this continuity, this universe, is that Starscream and Megatron get along. When Starscream comes up with this idea to attack the platform as opposed to the actual Ark, Megatron actually calls Starscream a genius, and then Starscream says mighty leader, a great leader, sorry, is a sign of actual respect, something that Starscream would never give Megatron in the G1 continuity, in any continuity of G1 related, whether it be Armada, animated, whatever. Starscream had never been a person to give Megatron respect. And one more thing I find awesome is that there's even a Shattered Glass Cyclonus, which is really cool. So here we have the battle, the launch pad at Iacon with the Ark there, and some Rampage and Razorclaw. They attack some ground guards, and then the Autobots go in for the attack on the launch platform. Now what they're using is Cliffjumper's glass gas, which is one of his more famous weapons, which renders Cybertronian metal, it causes it to become very brittle-like glass. And now we get a frontal attack from the Decepticons. And you can see lots of different characters. And you see Frenzy here, and I'm guessing that might be Six Shot. And you get Soundwave, and I believe that's who they. I don't know if I can't remember if it was inspired by. It's probably inspired by, because that is music label. I can't remember the official name, but it's the white version of music label Soundwave, especially in the buttons and everything. So I don't know which inspired which. So the Autobots see this frontal attack happening and they go, that's really sad. This Prime sends out Grimlock, who is redecoed as in Triptychon colors. Not a lot of people like that, but I quite like that they made that nod from one Tyrannosaurus to another. And then he sends out his Seekers. And I love how he used the term Seekers for them. Rodimus, Goldbug, and Blur. I just like it. So Megatron and Prime get into a fight. Grimlock and the Predacons get into a skirmish. Cliffjumper sees that the Shattered Glass Decepticons are helping each other, and the Autobots are killing, or don't care about anybody. They're just all for shooting up Decepticons.